Hello everyone, Danny here today to talk to you about the audiobook Regicide, written by Dakota Krout, narrated by Vikas Adam. And I know I pronounced the name correctly because that's the way they pronounce it in the book. This is book 2 of the Completionist Chronicles. It is a lit RPG book. It is one of my favorites in this series. It does a few things slightly differently. It does a lot completely the same, but this is one of those to where I've already posted a review on book 1. This is book 2, and in my opinion, book 2 is a massive improvement on book 1, and that's saying a lot because I really liked book 1. What makes book 2 so much better than book 1? Give me a second and I will tell you. First though, if like me you love audiobooks, books in general, please subscribe to my channel. Come join me on my audiobook journey. What makes this book so much better than the first book? Quite honestly, the characters that are added to this book. The storyline is every bit as good as the storyline in the first book. You're thrown quite a large surprise at the end of the book. You have humor throughout the story. You have, a bit of drama throughout the story. You have some really well done battle scenes. You basically have the final battle between the humans and the werewolves, and even the king himself. You get to see the king, flow into action. But in this book, Joe puts together his own crew. Now, if you remember in the last book, one of the things that I had not liked about the last book was the fact that Joe's crew got disbanded. I liked the crew he had in the last book. I really liked the crew he had in the last book. And I was disappointed that they disbanded the crew. If I'd have known what was coming, I would not have been quite so disappointed, because Joe goes out and he gets permission to put together his own crew. And what a crew he puts together. So if you've listened to book 1, Joe has kind of a weird, quirky sense of humor about him. Well, and his own unique approach to the game. And he uses that quirky sense of humor, that unique approach to the game, when he puts together his crew. And you get this really hilarious but strange crew that gets put together that is surprisingly effective. It works really well together. It gets along. My favorite, and I can't remember the character's name in the game, but he's a chiropractor in real life, and then in the game, he plays a character, and he invests absolutely nothing, no points whatsoever into, I forget what they call it now. My stupid brain's having brain farts right now. Anyhow, into the part of him that allows him to relate well and get along with other people. The word will come to me in just a second here, and then I'll let you know what the word is. So you wonder, okay, in a game like this, if you have someone say they invest everything into their constitution and their fighting skills and charisma, see, I told you it'd come to me, and they ignore something like charisma, well, won't their own natural charisma come through? Won't the way the person is in real life come through in the character that he's playing in the game? How are they going to deal with that? Well, the way they deal with that is if you don't invest enough in charisma, which is what this person didn't do, then the game twists what you hear, and the game twists what you say. So the game makes sure that you're going to have no charisma, and you're going to be this weirdo that gets chased and beaten by the police, and everybody has a hard time getting along with until they understand what is going on. It's a hilarious character. It's my favorite character in the book, but not by a large stretch. You've got the bard that he gets into the group, who He's not a bard. He's something else. I can't remember what it is. I just finished listening to the book, believe it or not. He's an amazing character. You know, he's got a gal who's his ranged warrior, and she's kind of a sucky ranged warrior. But yet she works because she's also, you know, her big thing is poisons and stuff like that. As far as adult elements go, there's no language. This is something I noticed with the book, and I really like this. There are scenes where someone speaking uses foul language, and the author manages to edit it so that you don't hear the foul language, but someone old enough would understand foul language was used there. I'll give you an example. So there's a message that comes to Joe, and this is not an exact quote, but the message, you know, the messenger goes, I have a message from A10. I am going to edit the message. A10 says, get your fudging backside over there, you worthless piece of horse manure. I have edited it. I can give it to you in the original if you want. And, you know, of course, Joe's like, no, I don't need to hear the original. I'm good. Thank you. So it does something like that to let you know there would have been swear language used there, but the bad language has been cut out and censored. There are a few humorous situations that have an adult edge to them, but it's an adult edge that you'd have to really kind of be an adult to get. And as an adult, you get it, and it puts you on the floor almost rolling around laughing, and your kids will probably be looking at you going, why is that funny? I don't get why that's funny, Mom and Dad. It's definitely a book that when my kids were younger, I would have listened to both books around them, and they would have absolutely loved it. They've listened to it now and absolutely loved it. They finished it ahead of me, so that's how much, you know, they loved it there. The narrator is the same narrator they used in the first book, which is excellent. He's a really, really good narrator. I had not heard of this narrator until this book series came along. But I got a feeling he's going to be a narrator that is going to attract the following. If you're familiar with audiobooks, you know there are narrators who are good enough that they attract a following, and people start looking for books narrated by them. Nick Podell is a good example. Nick Podell has a huge following of people who look for books that are produced specifically by Nick Podell. I got a feeling Vikas Adam, and this time I'm not quite as sure that I pronounced it correctly, but before I started the video, I went back and listened real quick. Like now it's been a bit, but I'm pretty sure I pronounced it correctly. Is going to be like that. He's going to be someone that people are going to be searching out books for, because he does a really, really good job of narrating the book. He gets the emotion and the expression into the story. He does the voices. He does all that kinds of stuff that you expect from a good narrator, but he also gets the emotion into it. When a character is angry and frustrated, the anger and frustration comes through in his voice. If a character is happy, you hear the joy in the character's voice. He does a really good job. I don't know how many books are going to be in this series. This is definitely not the end of the book. That is made very clear. In fact, I'll give a spoiler right here, right now. What you discover at the end of the book is that this has been the training session for everyone. This has been their introduction, their chance to get trained and to learn the game. And now the real game is about to start. Now that it's really going to get dangerous and it's really going to get hard. Wonder what is coming. Joe makes several choices through the book. You know, he in book one, he chooses a deity, and that deity is a neutral deity that sounds almost like a dark deity, and he chooses, you know, a character, the ritualist, that could easily become a dark, evil character. And several things happen to him throughout the book that make it obvious that it would be very easy for him to go to the dark side. And in this book, he has several chances to make choices that could take him to the dark side or take him to the light side. And 100% of the time, he makes choices that take him to the dark side. There's a couple of those times to where, like, this is a very obvious dark side choice. This is a very obvious light side choice. And there's this really good choice in the middle that I would have taken. And he goes for the very obvious light side. And I can kind of see the upside to that, but not really. And so I'm very curious as the game progresses to see how is that going to benefit and change things going down the road versus the character. I mean, that he's given a choice and he can pick an architectural ritualist or a war ritualist, and that's not the correct title, but one of those two. I would have picked war ritualist. He picks architectural. Then they have this huge, massive battle against the Wolfmen, and the war ritualist would have really, really come in handy there. But at the same time, that's just one war. And as he says when he's picking, he'd rather build than destroy, which when he was in the military, he was a medic. His job was to save lives, not take lives. So it fits with his characters that he would do that. I'm just curious to see going down the road, how is this ritual architect going to add to his power, add to the power of his guild? He sticks with his guild. He does come to loggerheads with his guild at one point. And it's a very entertaining point where you don't see what's coming until it happens. And then after it happens, you're hoping it gets fixed. And it gets fixed, but not back to where it was before. So there's room for improvement with him and A10. And who knows, this final battle we may discover had been the clincher that solves it. This is, I'm going to go back and listen to the Dungeon Born is another series by Dakota Krout, and my understanding is it falls within the same world. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to that. I've got a couple of other books that have been requested that I'm going through right now before I can get to that, but I'm anxious to get to that and see. It's a book that I had started, gotten like 6 minutes into and gone, oh, this book would not interest me at all, and I'd stopped listening to it. That was prior to my introduction to lit RPG. Now that I'm kind of getting into lit RPG, well, not kind of, I mean, 70-80% of the books I've been listening to have been lit RPG. I'm really into it now. I'm going to go back and re-listen to it and see, did I shortchange myself and miss out? Other people I've talked to that have listened to it, it's a really good series, so look for that. That will be coming up. If you like my video, hit the like button. Questions, comments, feedback, it's what the comment section's for. Put it in there. But most importantly, no matter what else you do today, make sure that today you listen to at least one really good book. And I highly, highly recommend The Completionist Chronicles by Dakota Krout. Thank you. Have a good day.